Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the DFO DFS Hockey Report. It is Thursday, January the 15th. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Brock Seguin. We got Zach Laing here as well. Zach, how you doing today, bud?
I'm doing good, man. Crazy day, just work-wise, behind on a lot of stuff to start the day. But it's a brand new day to win some money on the DFS streets, and I'm going to the Oilers game tonight, so that's going to be pretty fun.
Okay, so I guess we've already figured out exactly where your builds are going tonight. 100% Edmonton. And that's it. That's the end of the show. Have a great day. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Okay, so we've got a 10-game slate on our hands in all seriousness. We're going to try to get through it as quickly as possible. So I'm going to handle the breakdowns, the matchups and stuff, and then we'll go to Zach to get his thoughts on who he's going to play. So we'll try to get through this in about a half hour here to let you build, give you enough time to build some lineups this evening. So let's go. We've got the Washington Capitals. They will go with Logan Thompson. It's going to be Alex Nedeljkovic for the San Jose Sharks. The Capitals will get Jacob Chikrin back tonight. Tom Wilson still out. The Columbus Blue Jackets will go with Elvis Merzlikins. It'll be Kevin Lankinen for the Vancouver Canucks. The Pittsburgh Penguins will go with Stuart Skinner. Unclear who starts for the Philadelphia Flyers. Projecting to see Sam Ersson. Alexei Kolosov was called up from the AHL with Dan Vladar getting hurt yesterday. It's going to be one of those two. Probably doesn't matter much. Colton Ellis projected to get the start of the second half of a back-to-back for the Buffalo Sabres. It's going to be Jacob Fowler for the Montreal Canadiens. Jesper Wallstedt gets the start for the Minnesota Wild. Likely going to see Connor Hellebuck for the Jets. It's going to be Jeremy Swayman for the Bruins. Projecting to see Joey Daccord in the second half of a back-to-back for the Seattle Kraken. The Blackhawks will go with Spencer Knight. They'll also get Connor Bedard back in the lineup, but Tuulo Teravainen is out. The Calgary Flames will go with Devin Cooley, most likely. And then in Utah, it's going to be Karel Vejmelka for the Mammoth. The Stars will go with Jake Ottinger. They will be without Miro Heiskanen for a second straight game due to personal reasons. We wish him all the best. The game that Zach's going to be at tonight, Connor Ingram gets the start. He leads the NHL in quality start percentage, just unbelievable stuff there. He gets the nod for the Oilers. It's going to be Ilya Sorokin coming off of a stinker in Winnipeg for the Islanders tonight. Then the Vegas Golden Knights host the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Leafs in the second half of back-to-back, so they'll go with Joseph Woll tonight. No, it's not second half of back-to-back for the Leafs. That's my apology. Second half of the back-to-back is for Vegas. So they're projected to go with Aiden Hill. Like, he's expected to play for the first time in 3 months. It's unconfirmed. We don't know for sure. As of I've last seen, he has not been activated from IR yet. So it's not a foregone conclusion. It could certainly be Carl Lindbaum, which would completely change the outlook of that hockey game. The Maple Leafs, who are not on a back-to-back, will go with most likely Joseph Woll tonight. Nick Robertson re-enters the lineup, and Matthew Nyes missed the morning skate, but is expected to play. So those are your 20 starting goalies for tonight's slate. Let's get into the breakdowns. We'll start with the Washington Capitals hosting the San Jose Sharks. Really one of the more intriguing games on the slate from a DFS standpoint. Looks like a really nice game environment here. The Capitals have a 3.6 implied total, minus 163 home favorites in this one. Both teams pretty middling in terms of the 5v5 offense as of late. The Sharks continue to struggle really. You struggle a lot at 5v5 and defensive aspect of the game, but their power play has been great. And Zach, let's not bury the lead here. I think this is the first time ever that the San Jose Sharks have had the number one power play advantage, at least as long as I can remember, as I've been doing these charts. For a couple of reasons. Obviously, their power play has been very good. The Capitals' PK is not terrible, but they are not very disciplined, and the Sharks do a tremendous job drawing penalties. So they're projected for the most power plays this evening, and that gives them the number one power play matchup of the night. Thoughts on that San Jose power play?
Boy, what a time to be alive. I think it makes San Jose a really interesting spot to get to here tonight. I like San Jose one, even from a 5-on-5 perspective. Would love to see Igor Chernyshov on that top unit, but obviously with Macklin up there, totally fine to play him. I like the looks of this spot for the Sharks top line tonight. And I mean, that second line for the Sharks, full correlation at 5-on-5 and on the top power play unit. They don't have the best matchup here in this spot tonight. They need to score some more goals. But the Capitals have been kind of surprisingly weak defensively here as of late. So I think San Jose is probably one of the more interesting pivot spots on this entire slate tonight.
Yes, we've got them coming in at pretty low ownership. Celebrini about 7%, Chernyshov 2%. Colin Graf gets the bump back up to that line, so it really helps keep the price tag down to full stack Macklin Celebrini's line if you so choose to do so. They're going to go up against the second line for the Washington Capitals, which doesn't have very good defensive metrics. And that top line, even with Graf instead of William Eklund, has had really, really good underlying metrics so far this season. So I do think I agree with you there. Obviously, Logan Thompson can have an outstanding performance, but the Sharks' offense has proven to be more than capable. Top power play looks really good tonight as well. The second line, decent underlying metric, as you mentioned, full correlation on that top power play unit. They grade out within the top 10, seen about 3% ownership. I think they're an okay option as well. Mostly Eklund and Toffoli. Wenberg doesn't have the best floor at $4,200, but Eklund and Toffoli both been shooting the puck pretty heavily, and Toffoli's kind of caught fire as of late. So I do think that them as a mini stack, even if you want to include Celebrini and get that power play correlation going, I think that San Jose is actually a really interesting low-owned spot tonight. On the Washington Capitals side of things, it's going to be a lot of ownership coming the way of Ethan Frank. He's been catching fire here as of late. Now he gets promoted to the top line with Strome and Ovechkin. He's unclear which power play unit he's going to be on and how the power plays are going to shake out with Jacob Chikrin back, but you don't really have to worry about it. He's on the top line, playing really well, shoots the puck a ton. Got a great shot. He's $3,800. He's one of my favorite value plays again tonight. This full line stack is obviously certainly viable tonight. They're going to see a heavy dose of the bottom 9 here for the Sharks. Bottom 9 for the Sharks. Basically, every line is terrible, but the bottom 6, specifically is awful defensively. So really a nice matchup here that I think Washington 1 can take advantage of. They're seeing a healthy dose of ownership, but it's not crazy. Nobody's really drawing crazy ownership. There's no massive chalk on this slate that I've seen. So really interested in that line. I think you could certainly get to Protas, Michael Leonard as well. I like the top line a little bit more. The underlying metrics significantly better than what you get from the second line. Any thoughts on the Capitals or the Sharks here?
Yeah, it's interesting. These two teams met on December 3rd. It was a 7-1 win for the Washington Capitals that night. It was the Ryan Leonard night, 2 goals and 4 points in that game. A massive performance from him. Matt Roy had 3 assists. Trevor Van Riemsdyk 2 assists. Ovechkin 2 goals. Brandon Duhaime had a goal and an assist in that game. A couple other guys with single points. So I think this is a Capitals team that has shown they can pile it on here. It is worth mentioning that I don't even know who got the start in that game. Both goaltenders played. Both goaltenders were bad. Askarov got the lost decision in that game. So I like the Capitals here tonight. It's going to be pretty easy to get to them and probably a little bit over top the field as well.
Yeah, I think it was Askarov that got yanked in that game, and Nedeljkovic came in. Nedeljkovic in his last 5 outings, .847 save percentage. So certainly you can definitely get to him. Let's get to game number 2, the Columbus Blue Jackets and the Vancouver Canucks this evening. It is going to be Merzlikins versus Lankinen, -158 home favorites for the Blue Jackets. Really, really good offense. They were super chalky the other night. I imagine that'll be the case here in a moment when we get to this breakdown. I saw somewhere on Twitter today. I mean, I bet the over in this game just because it does feel like a pretty decent over environment, although the Canucks offense is always a little sus. But with Merzlikins getting the start, you'd think that they can maybe sneak a couple past them to help push this to the over. The last 8 meetings between these two teams has gone over 6.5. So it's certainly been a good game environment in the past, and as expected, a lot of ownership coming the way of the Columbus Blue Jackets tonight. They were massive chalk the other night. They are again tonight. All 3 of their lines graded out, of their top 3 lines graded out above the Vancouver Canucks, which is a totally surprising. All seeing a decent chunk of ownership. Now, it won't show up. It's high event game, one of the highest event games on the slate. It won't show up on the charts, but I'm going to pull up the numbers here for you to give you an idea just how good they've been. I thought about using it at like the raw Wowie, but it's not quite large enough of a sample size to use. Who's the third member? Boone Jenner, Sean Monahan, and Ken Johnson. That's who it is. So in 61 minutes together, they're averaging 87 shot Corsi 4. So let's just pull up their actual, like what I've used in the charts just for comparison's sake. So this number is actually 87.1. Their goals for per 60 is 4.9. Their expected goals for per 60 is 4.2. Their scoring chances for per 60 is 44. And then their high danger chances for 21.5. So that's the second line here of the Blue Jackets. So it was only a 60-minute sample. It's a little smaller than what I would normally use, so I had to change it a little bit, but it still grades out really well. But if you factor in just that 60-minute sample, and then you factor in that they have the 93% matchup score tonight, they're going to see a lot of this top 6 of the Vancouver Canucks, specifically a lot of the second line, which has just disastrous offensive or defensive metrics. This sets up a really nice night for Columbus, too. And, it is Columbus one that's drawing more ownership with Fantilli and Marchenko, which I agree with as well. But this second line, man, just 12,200. Obviously, I'm probably a little bit more focused in the Monahan Jenner mini stack, but I will get Ken Johnson in there as well. $3,400. His game's starting to perk up a bit. He played a lot in his first game under Rick Bowness, so I think that is a sign of things to come. I think he could really start to rediscover his game here after the coaching change. So this line seems to be in a tremendous spot. Obviously, you got to like what you've got here from Columbus. One, really good underlying metrics for them. This is a full sample of really, really good numbers. Their matchup's not quite as good, but they're still in a decent spot. And then Columbus 3, obviously, I don't think that they're as good of a full stack candidate. Maybe Voronkov, Coyle, mini stacks, but Coyle on that top power play unit, obviously, just had a monster night and a chalk spot the other night. He'll be back there again tonight. You do have Ken Johnson on that top unit as well, which helps him at that $3,400 price tag. So to me, there's a lot to like about this Blue Jackets team tonight, but I specifically am very interested in that second line as a value option tonight. I think they're by far and away my favorite value option of the night.
Yeah, absolutely. Columbus too looks to be in just a tremendous spot here. You mentioned Boone Jenner over his last 10 games played, 3 goals, 5 assists, 26 shots on goal, 8 blocks. Monahan, a goal, 4 assists, 9 shots, 3 blocks. Ken Johnson, a goal, 15 shots, 8 blocks. They're providing a pretty solid floor, all things considering here, these 3 guys. And I think they've got the offensive upside to really pop, and especially in this matchup here. Couple that with a Bones bump and Ken Johnson getting some big praise from new head coach Rick Bowness the other day. So I think this is a great spot here for Columbus. I'm probably going to be pretty high owned on them here tonight. I think I'll be well over the field. I mean, this just looks like a tremendous spot for them. And yeah, the matchup's a little bit tough for that top line, but the offensive metrics for these 3 guys have been great. Adam Fantilli and Kirill Marchenko just absolutely on a tear right now themselves. Marchenko, 5 goals, 6 assists in his last 10, 38 shots on goal. Fantilli, 6 apples. Like to see some more point production there, but a good floor with 30 shots on goal as well. So lots of interest in this Columbus side tonight. In terms of the Canucks, I mean, you can maybe talk me into a little bit of Vancouver 1 here. Feels like they've maybe turned a little bit of a corner, but again, 34th overall on the charts tonight. It does feel a little bit tough. I'll certainly be under the field on Vancouver 1 here tonight with DeBrusk and Pedersen, but I do think it's an interesting spot here for them nonetheless.
I might be able to pique your interest a little bit here. They grade out pretty poorly overall. The underlying metrics, similar to Columbus 2, don't actually paint the real picture just because it is a bit of a smaller sample size. The actual wowies in just 62 minutes, so again, just too small of a sample to use, but 73 Corsi 4 per 60, 5.4 expected goals 4 per 60, 49.6 scoring chances for, 27.7 high danger chances for. They have been absolutely spectacular. If I use that small sample, they would obviously grade out way too well maybe in the charts. So that's why it's kind of a fine balance of they probably grade out lower than they should, but I also didn't want them to just completely nuke the charts with a 60-minute sample. So I do think when you take a look at this matchup for them, seeing pretty much an even split of the top 9 of the Blue Jackets, there's 2 pretty bad defensive lines there. Merzlikin's getting the start. I do think Vancouver 1 is in a really interesting spot tonight. The rest of this team I could care less about playing, but Vancouver 1 specifically at their price tags, just 14,100, another really good value option.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I think those are some really fascinating numbers. And it's worth mentioning too, Vancouver has the second best power play matchup on the entire slate tonight. Their power play, at least from an underlying perspective, has been really solid, only converting at a 19% clip here, but they do match up well with this Columbus Blue Jackets team. So just another angle to kind of like a little bit of Vancouver here tonight.
Yeah, and I don't think Columbus matchup's too bad. Like, their power play is just kind of mediocre, but the Vancouver Canucks penalty kill struggle. So this is just a really nice game environment. It just depends on which, the Canucks seem to struggle offensively outside of that top line. It is worth mentioning, bringing up the Vancouver Canucks power play here. It's unclear. Tom Willander will be back in the lineup tonight. It's unclear if he'll be on the top power play unit or if it'll be Zeev Buium again. The last game in which both of them were in the lineup, it was Willander on that top line. So that's who we have projected there. Just keep that in mind as you're building around the Canucks this evening. I promise we'll pick up the pace here as we get to some more boring games throughout the night here. But Pittsburgh hosting the Philadelphia Flyers, Pittsburgh in a really, really nice spot tonight with Ersson or Kolosov getting the start for the Flyers. They are massive home favorites tonight. Their offense has been good. Obviously, the Flyers' defense has been good, but I feel like the Flyers are scuffling a little bit right now. Not another kind of tough performance last night against the Sabres. I do think that they are certainly gettable this evening, specifically for Pittsburgh 1. Rickard Rakell is the highest projected owned forward of the slate, I believe, if I remember what I saw earlier. Yeah, the highest projected owned forward on the slate at $5,800. The shot volume is great with him. Obviously the price tag is really affordable on this line. That is very, very good. The underlying metrics here are pretty bad. They're going to see a ton of the Noah Cates line. I wouldn't be surprised if they changed that matchup. Like, I don't know why that would be the kind of matchup you choose if you were the Penguins. So I'm going to kind of take that with a grain of salt. I do think they'll probably see a little bit more of this top six and try to find them better matchups than, basically matching them up with the line that you want, or the Flyers want them to match them up with. So I don't really buy that they're going to be the 12th best line. To me, they're easily inside the top 10. I think that matchup probably changes. I think they're a good line at 20,900 with the Flyers on a back-to-back with, Kolosov or Erison getting the start. Pittsburgh, too, in a nice spot. Their underlying metrics are really bad, so I don't really know what to make of that. Pittsburgh, 3, underlying metrics are a little bit better, but they grade out 49th. I'm probably just going Pittsburgh 1 or bust in this spot, to be honest with you. The Flyers top line grades out really well again. I don't mind sprinkling them in about 5%. Matchup is really good. They're expected to see a lot of that Malkin line, who struggles. Basically, his entire top 9 does struggle defensively. But man, Stuart Skinner, hilariously enough, has just been absolutely fantastic as of late. So I'm not really sure how much Pittsburgh I'm going to get to. If you want an idea of how good Stuart Skinner has been, he has given up 1 goal, 1 goal, 1 goal, and 1 goal in his last 4 starts, 4 total goals against, 955 save percentage. And it's not like he's facing bad opponents. He had the Hurricanes, the Red Wings, the Devils, and the Bruins in those 4 games. So he's playing really, really well. So I probably won't get to a ton of Philadelphia outside of maybe like 5% of that top line. How about you?
Yeah, I'm going to get to some Pittsburgh 1 here for sure. It feels like a pretty nice spot for them on this slate tonight. The matchup is a little gross as it's currently projected, but boy, they could really open this game up in a big way. You talk about some of the struggles the Flyers have had. 4-5-1 in their last 10 games played, just 23.3 shots on goal, 4 per hour at 5-on-5, 2.17 goals for, 2.33 expected goals for, and their power play has gone absolutely anemic despite generating some solid quality. So the offense has certainly sputtered here for the Flyers. It makes me a little hesitant to play them as a whole. I was pretty heavy on them last night. Dvorak looked to be in a great spot, ended up with a snowflake and a 0 beside his name. So I think for me, I'll get to a little bit of this Flyers 1 spot here, but probably nothing more than 5% on a full stack, maybe 8%, 10% in terms of full total ownership, but I'm fine meeting the field here on Pittsburgh 1 at about 10%.
Are you planning on getting to any of the depth of the Penguins? I'm just trying to pull up a chart here. Just if you could kill a couple more minutes, or a couple more seconds, any interest in the depth here of the Pittsburgh Penguins?
Yeah, I think that there's some interesting spots here for sure. Malkin back from injury, jumping back in on that second line. He's got a solid floor. He's been really solid all season, all things considered here. At his last 20 games, despite the fact that, he missed some time with injury, 2.7 goals, 4 per hour, 4 points per hour. He's finding ways to produce when he's out there. And I think this third line also offers kind of an interesting option. I'm curious to see what you have in terms of the data, but both Mantha and Brazeau have still just remained having fairly solid seasons, and thanks to a good floor that they've provided. Ben Kendall, obviously a guy that we liked earlier on in this season. His game's dropped off a little bit offensively as of late here, but again, still good shot volume from him, 8.1 shots on goal per hour. And that third line fully correlates on the second power play unit with one Brett Kulak as well.
Yeah, and obviously, good value options in Kulak. Again, I like him again tonight. Chris Letang, obviously, on the blue line. I was trying to pull up and see, I'll still pull it up, but it's not as damning as I thought it might be. This is the rolling 5-game average for the Philadelphia Flyers in terms of their XG. And yes, the offense is plummeting, but they're still good defensively. But the offense, just really starting to crumble a little bit. It's bounced back, and then now it's heading back to the basement. So let's get to game number 4 tonight. We've got the Buffalo Sabres and the Montreal Canadiens. The Sabres graded out really well defensively again tonight. Obviously, with Colton Ellis, I think it opens the door a little bit for this Canadiens team. I think the one thing that's super interesting is just it feels like the Canadiens have finally found this a lineup that works right for them. It's really starting to click here. Texier has been on an absolute tear on this top line. He's still just $3,900. I think they're in a really good spot. They grade out 7th best. The matchup's not great. The Sabres are playing pretty well defensively. Josh Norris might not play tonight. They are going to get Michael Kesselring back, it looks like. So, maybe not the best matchup overall, but it is a back-to-back for the Sabres. It is Colton Ellis getting the start. I do think that this Montreal top line can stay hot this evening. The power play, not very good on either side. So I don't think I'm going to get to a ton of Montreal 1, but I think they're in an okay spot here to get about 5% and still be over the field. I still think Texier at 3,900 is a solid value option. The second line just continues to improve. They keep getting better. Ivan Demidov is really catching fire. The one thing of note is in the morning skate today, Ivan Demidov was moved to that top power play unit as well. So now you've got Demidov and Slafkovsky correlation there. So yeah, I think the second line, man, they've been so hot as of late. Their matchup is actually the best of the Montreal Canadiens. It's not great by any means, but Demidov's really starting to find his way. This line has been a very good value option as of late, and they are not seeing much ownership at all this evening. So I do think on a back-to-back, I've got more interest here in the Montreal side of things than I do the Sabres side of things. It's unclear exactly how the Sabres lineup is going to look tonight. I do think this second line still represents a pretty good value option because their underlying metrics are just through the roof good. 38 scoring chances for per 60 is really impressive. The problem is the matchup's not great. The Thompson line does have the best matchup, but I just don't know how much Buffalo I'm going to get to tonight. I think they can certainly win this hockey game, but Jacob Fowler's really shown that he is a more than capable NHL goalie, maybe the best that the Montreal Canadiens have to offer. And I think I got some interest in him at $7,800 as a low owned option tonight. So I don't think I'm going to get to a ton of Buffalo. Probably sprinkle in Montreal 1 and 2. How about you?
Yeah, I'm kind of comfortable fading some of this ownership on the Sabres here tonight. Dating back to the start of last season, the Montreal Canadiens have played the Sabres 5 times, winning all 5 games. They've outscored the Sabres 25-13. They had a 4-2 back in October, and last season it was a 4-3 win in overtime, a 4-2 win, a 6-1 win, and a 7-5 win. So certainly a lot of offense to come, based on some of these historical matchups. I think this is certainly a spot where Montreal can stay hot here. So they're actually one of the spots that I really kind of like on this slate tonight as potential spots to get over the field. Like you talked about, this lineup really feels like it's clicking. Oliver Kapanen, he's been great at $4,300, one of the top value forwards on the slate tonight. I really like the look of this Sabres side or this Canadian side tonight. I think this is a really nice spot to kind of get a little bit different from the field and get over top of them. They don't have a strong power play matchup or anything like that here in this spot, but boy, this power play has shown that it can click at times, even if they've sputtered a little bit as of late here. So a lot of interest in Montreal tonight for me. I love the way this lineup is starting to really take shape within this top 6. And for Buffalo, I think there's a reason to get there. Evidently, there was a game last year where they put up 5 against the Canadiens, but I do agree with you on Jacob Fowler at $7,800. He feels like a really solid play here tonight on this slate. And it just feels to me like one of these games where Montreal really can kind of take control.
Rebecca says, sorry to bounce back to the Columbus game, but which D-man correlates best with Columbus too? We talked about it the last time we talked about this, the Blue Jackets. With bonus, things are going to change. So we only have one game of data to go off of. But Jenner's line was kind of an even split between playing with Fabro and Rowensky and Provorov and Zamula. That's going to be Provorov and Severson tonight. And then they're all on the second power play unit. So I think probably correlate best with Provorov and Severson. Is what I would say. Obviously, Fabro, though, his discounted price or Rowensky, you can never really go wrong with either of them. They correlate with them at 5v5 okay as well. So I would say probably a little bit more correlation with the Provorov pairing, but the top pair looks okay as well. Let's get to the next game. We've got the Minnesota Wild and the Winnipeg Jets. I don't have an overwhelming amount of interest in this game. It does feel like a lower scoring affair. Obviously, 2 really good goalies. I think that 2 offenses are just kind of middling. The good power play goes up against the good PK. The bad power play goes against the bad PK. I think that, there's probably still some interest here. It's just not a ton. I feel probably fairly similar to how the field feels. It's kind of just the real top dogs in this game are great. The depth is just awful. I don't mind this Kaprizov line. It's a really cheap stack for a full stack of Kaprizov. They grade out second best in the charts. If you take a look at the matchups for them, it is quite good. You take a look at their underlying metrics, it's quite good. So that's probably the line that I would focus in on the most. The second line just doesn't have the same punch without Joel Eriksson Ek. They grade out 25th. It's not to say that Matt Boldy's not a good play. It's not to say that Ryan Hartman's not a good value at 4,600. I just have a little bit more confidence in this top line, given their matchup, given their metrics for them. And then obviously Winnipeg, it's Winnipeg one or bust pretty much always and forever. Their matchup, though, not great. Their offensive metrics, they've really just outperformed their expected metrics. And the power play has just been awful as of late. So I have less interest in the Jets than I normally do. Obviously, they absolutely crushed Sorokin the other night. I don't think that's something to expect, often, just the way the metrics are and the way this power play is right now. But the power play matchup is good if you want to go that route. The Wild are very disciplined, though. So for me, not a lot of Winnipeg tonight whatsoever. I'll probably sprinkle in some Minnesota won. I also like Quinn Hughes a little bit tonight. He grades what I think is the best value defenseman on the entire slate. Yeah, $7,200. So definite interest there in Quinn Hughes, but overall not a ton of interest in this game for me. How about you?
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot of interest either. I think one thing that's worth mentioning too is the Winnipeg Jets at 5-on-5, 3.41 goals for per hour. Evidently, some of that's coming from that Islanders game you mentioned there. But, they're finding some ways to click offensively. What is it? Jonathan Taves, 3 goals in his last 3 games played, something like that as well. That second line maybe starting to take a little bit of shape here. I'm not saying I'm going to get to them here tonight a whole lot, but I mean, the matchup is solid. The line stats are fairly okay for Winnipeg too, if you want to kind of get to a real sort of punty line. I do have some interest in this top line for the Winnipeg Jets. I have some interest in this top 6 for the Wild. I just feels hard to trust Minnesota. And again, like Connor Hellebuck has, it's been a tough season for him. I think individually, an 899 save percentage, 17.1 goals saved above expected. Still, he's trying to do his part. It's just unfortunate that this Winnipeg team in front of him has just completely collapsed for most of this season. So I think I've got some interest in getting to this game. I'll probably meet the field on this Minnesota ownership. There we go. I had to run through that one in my head for a second or two. And I'll probably get over the field here on Winnipeg one as well tonight.
Just to give you an idea, I do agree with you. It does seem like the Jets are starting to take shape a little bit. They're rolling average at 5v5 here as of late. The offense is really starting to trend up. The defensive metrics, I mean, just really, really good. It's headed more in the direction of which we are accustomed to seeing the Winnipeg Jets. So, yeah, I think that's just another reason why this game is probably going to be a little bit lower scoring. And, with a decent chunk of ownership coming in on the Minnesota Wild, I do think that, Connor Hellebuck probably makes some sense. $7,200. If this is a low scoring game, it's still one of the best goalies in the world, even if it has been a bit of a difficult season. If those defensive metrics keep getting better and they keep playing better defensively. Obviously, missing Neil Pionk is going to be unfortunate, but $7,200 Connor Hellebuck is always going to garner a lot of my interest. Boston and Seattle, the Bruins are huge home favorites tonight, -171. The Seattle Kraken on the second half of back-to-back. Bruins offense is suddenly coming to life here. And the Kraken defense is getting a little bit better. Penalty kill still absolutely horrific, though, for the Kraken. Yesterday's game against New Jersey was extremely low event for the Seattle Kraken. Won't be surprised if that's the case here. And the charts agree. Not a single line in this game grading out within the top 10. Not really much ownership coming in at either. The matchup's obviously very good on the Boston side of things because the Kraken are so bad defensively. The metrics here for this new Boston one are hilarious. They're generating absolutely nothing. They're still scoring because they have David Pastrnak, and they're just the most elite defensive line in hockey, apparently. So really interesting stuff there. I think, given this matchup, I don't mind getting to maybe a little bit of Pastrnak, Lindholm, but, I just don't really think it's a game that's going to explode offensively and really be optimal. The power play matchup is 8th best, despite the Kraken, being just horrific on the PK. So, I think getting to a little pasta, a little bit of Lindholm, getting some power play correlation there, a little bit of 5v5 matchup going on there is okay, but I'm not going to get, too carried away. The one name I do want to throw out there is Victor Arvidsson at $4,400. And I mean, as an Oilers fan, I know it'll probably bug you a little bit, but I was pretty surprised to see just what he's been capable of doing since the beginning of November. Now, he's missed some time during this stretch, but since the start of November, he has 18 points in his last 22 hockey games. That's a 67-point pace. He's averaging 3 shots on goal and 5.9 shot attempts per game. That offense, or that shot volume, has just obviously been a calling card for Arvidsson throughout his career. The other night against the Red Wings, he had 10 shots on goal on 14 shot attempts in just 1350 time on ice. The man just gets the puck to the net. So in terms of a floor, in terms of a value option, Arvidsson is probably the one player that I'm going to target heavily in this hockey game. I think he's in a really nice spot. But in terms of stacking it overall in this game, not something I'm going to do a ton of. How about you?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with you there. I think if there's one reason to just add a little bit more intrigue to Pastrnak and to Boston one tonight, David Pastrnak has 9 games played against the Kraken in his career, 9 goals and 12 points in those games. Elias Lindholm, 3 goals and 12 points in 14 games played going against him too. Even Victor Arvidsson, 2 goals, 11 points, 13 games played. I think all 3 of those guys are good shouts there. I don't know if I'm going to get to much Seattle tonight. Matty Beniers and Jordan Eberle are a duo that I've kind of been playing a lot of, so I can see myself getting to 5% of them tonight. Beniers, 2 goals, 8 points in 7 games played against Boston in his career. So I think that's kind of where my interest lies in this game. A little bit of Boston 1, a little bit of Arvidsson, just a wee sprinkle of Seattle 1, and that's going to cover that for me.
Yeah, I think I always have to bring up Seattle 3 as well, just the best offensive metrics of the bunch, and I don't mind ever getting to a little bit of Shane Wright and Jared McCann. McCann, especially as a one-off, has been hot as of late. Let's get to Chicago and Calgary. Both these defenses are awful, but both their PKs are good, which is super interesting. Pretty tight game here. Basically a pick 'em in this one with the Blackhawks as slight home favorites. I don't really know what to make of this one. It's hard. Okay, let me just pull up again this rolling chart here, but for the Flames, because boy, I don't know what's going on in Calgary right now. It is wild to see. Just give me a moment. So holy shit. Look at these defensive metrics as of late. Just skyrocketing how bad they are defensively. They went from being one of the best 5v5 defenses in the league to just being horrific, absolutely awful. The offense has fallen off entirely. I think the Flames are a very difficult team to get to and trust this evening. Nobody really grades out well in this game, but I do have interest in the Chicago Blackhawks, mostly around that Bedard line, right? Like, obviously, they have the best offensive metrics overall. Defensive metrics aren't great. The power play matchup in this game, obviously not great either, but this is a power play that has had success this year, even though they are going up against a tough PK. So I do think this is kind of a sneaky good game environment with how bad these two teams are defensively, and I think the ownership is kind of shows that. I think Bedard at just $8,200 is super appealing to me, though. So I'll get there for sure. Ryan Green's played pretty well as of late. He's just 3,200. I don't mind him. I don't mind Burakovsky. Like, at 14,800 to full stack Bedard's line in a good matchup against a Calgary team that is struggling defensively, I think that they make a ton of sense, even if the charts maybe don't recognize it as good or as well as maybe we want them to. So that's probably the only line that I'm going to get to in this game. I don't have a ton of interest in the Flame side of things. The underlying metrics here on the back of the line without Coleman are awful. The third line grades out the best. So, if you want to get to some, we've seen Frost and Huberdeau have some success, but I don't think that, Frost, Huberdeau, Farabee is okay. Grades out the best. That would probably be at the line that I play from the Flames, but I don't feel great about it. So for me, a lot of Chicago won in this game. That's probably it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I like Chicago 1 here quite a bit. Connor Bedard being the lowest owned of the 3 on Chicago 1 is really intriguing to me.
So
considering the fact that he's played 6 games against Flames in his career, has 6 goals and 12 points. We talk about Leon Draisaitl being the mayor of Nashville. Is Connor Bedard the mayor of Calgary? I think it's asking these questions, Brock. He seems to be in a great spot here tonight to continue that production. Fire me up some Bedard, some Chicago 1. Don't even mind a little bit of Bertuzzi in there as well. Probably wouldn't play anybody else from Chicago 2 there, but I think at $5,100, Bertuzzi's a great play there. His floor has been tremendous as of late, scoring a ton of goals on a lot of quality looks too. So that's pretty much all the interest that I have. I don't really like Calgary in this spot here tonight. I'll probably be fading them almost entirely, I think.
Yeah, I think that's probably a pretty smart play. Shout out to Robin in the DFO DFS Discord for bringing it to our attention that, oops, that's the wrong screen that I'm maximizing. Let's make this one a little bit bigger. Is he the mayor of Calgary? I think, like you said, questions need to be asked because it's starting to look like possibly. So let's move it along now to the next game, which is the Utah Mammoth hosting the Dallas Stars. You okay over there?
I'm good.
Dallas, pardon me, again, without Miro Heiskanen. Utah really coming off just a splendid performance the other night. And me and you joked about it. We've talked about Utah 3 a ton this year. And then they dropped Dylan Gunther down to that line. I'm like, holy shit, this line finally has a finisher. He immediately scores 2 goals in that line. McBain, Carconi have a huge game. They had one of the best individual performances that we've seen in terms of just raw analytics from one hockey game. They just absolutely dismantled the Leafs. We both played a ton of them that night, and it worked out very well. I'm certainly going to go back to the well tonight on them. They only grade out 24th, most likely just due to the lack of ice time, like it's only about 25%, but they played a ton the other night. Won't be surprised if they're humming again if they get a lot of ice time. These metrics are just phenomenal as we've been accustomed to seeing. So really like getting back to them, especially Dallas without Miro. And then the top line for the Utah Mammoth makes a lot of sense as well. Clayton Keller, Nick Schmaltz, Lawson Krause have been playing tremendously well. I think that the Utah Mammoth win this hockey game. I think that they have a lot of success. I think that they are not seeing as much ownership as I'm going to be laying down on them. I think that they are both this first and third line are in really, really good spots tonight to find some success. It's a Dallas team that is kind of hit or miss, right? Like you think you got them figured out, then they lose to an Anaheim team with nobody in the lineup. Jake Ottinger had a nice performance against the Kings the other night, but prior to that, had been scuffling a little bit. He had given up 3 goals or more in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of his last 9 games with an 887 save percentage. So I think he's gettable without Heiskanen in the lineup. That obviously helps Utah. I really like Utah 1. I really like Utah 2. I'm less inclined to play the Dallas Stars tonight. I always don't mind getting to some Rupe at $5,600, but the price tag a little bit, a little high on Robertson at 9,100. So Johnson ran in a little bit, feel a little bit more affordable, even though it's not like actually true. But the matchups are what the matchups are. I don't really see an avenue to play Dallas tonight outside of the power play, which has been very good going up against a PK that analytically struggles. They do kill a solid amount of penalties. So with as little ownership as coming in the way of this hockey game, I think it's very sneaky. I really like Utah. I feel like I can get to a little bit of Dallas, like 5% Dallas power play, and you're 5x the field here in terms of their ownership. So I don't mind mixing this game in quite a bit and just hoping for the best because I think it's got some sneaky upside.
Yeah, I agree with you on that front, pretty much entirely. Like, I like the look of this Utah side here tonight. Definitely getting back to Utah 3. I think what's interesting is like getting to some of this Dallas ownership is totally fine through that power play. Thomas Harley bumped up there with Heiskanen out, Johnson, Rantanen, Harley, Hintz, Robertson, Harley. 2 stacks of those, and I think you're totally fine on Stars ownership here tonight. I like the idea of getting to this Utah side for sure. I mean, finally we see Utah 3 with a finisher, and look at what they were able to complete out there.
Unreal.
Tonight. So you love to see that getting back to the well there for sure. And I think one thing that's interesting too, Wyatt Johnson and Mikko Rantanen, both 5 games played against Utah so far. Johnson 2 goals and 5 points, Rantanen a goal and 8 points. So they've had some success so far in Utah's early stages of their tenure as an NHL franchise.
As you see here on screen, Arison gets to start, Barkey back in, Delorier out for the Flyers. Thank you, Beebs. And then you bring up a good point. Obviously, with no Miro Heiskanen, that means that Thomas Harley's on the top power play unit. You saw it earlier when I went to the defensive charts. Harley graded out as one of the best value options on the slate, also some of the highest ownership on the slate. So he makes that power play even easier to get to and even more affordable. So yeah, really a sneaky spot, I think, for this game entirely. What's not going to be sneaky is Zach's ownership on the Edmonton Oilers. 3.5 implied total, minus 156 home favorites tonight. Obviously, they are fantastic at 5v5. It's a fantastic hockey club. They are the second best power play in terms of PPXG over their last 25 games in terms of the weighted team ratings. And they go up against a penalty kill that has been good, not great. They have killed 80% of the penalties. Normally these metrics are bad. They've actually improved and kind of meet the actual percentage now, but it's still the 5th best power play advantage on the night. I think that the Islanders have done a pretty good job, like maintaining while they've been quite injured, right? Like no Bo Horvat, Romanov was hurt, no Kyle Palmieri anymore. Like they've done an okay job, but it feels like whenever you see them win a hockey game, it's because Sorokin stood on his head. And then like when he doesn't, they get crushed, which happened the other night. Tom says, Roto-Garner seems a bit confused. I bet my life McDavid is over 8%. I would probably agree with you, but he is up to 10,500 here. So it is 22,700 to full stack them. This looks like another great spot to target the Oilers. Now, the interesting thing I found about Sorokin, so that was just the first time that he gave up more than 5 or more goals in a game this season. But like the fact that he's the Vezina favorite right now, he has a 48% quality start percentage on the season. So like I said, like he either has it or he doesn't. He's given up 4 or more goals in 7 of 27 starts. He's given up 3 or more goals in 17 of 27 starts. So yes, the Islanders are very good defensively, and he's still making a lot of like, the reason he's the Vezina favorite is because the goal saved above expected number is the best in the league by a mile. Like he is doing yeoman's work in a bad situation. But nonetheless, he's still given up 3+ goals in 17 of 27 games and 4+ in 7 of 27. So he is certainly susceptible. And this is an Oilers team that, coming off of a bad loss in Nashville, is going to be fired up to get back and put a W on the board. This top line continues to grade out just ridiculously. And Kasperi Kapanen, man, has looked fantastic since coming back into the Oilers lineup. And at just $2,600, I love getting back to Edmonton too tonight. So I don't really need to ask you how much Edmonton you're going to get to. I know it's a lot, but how much is too much for you tonight?
Yeah, there's certainly a limit to it. I think it's kind of interesting because Ilya Sorokin, when you look at basically his entire career going up against the Edmonton Oilers, his numbers are great. Eight games played, just 3 wins, but he's got a shutout, a 235 goals against average, and a 932 save percentage. On home ice, he's got 3 wins and 4 games played with a 693 save percentage and a 121 goals against average. But when he's played in Edmonton, 0-3-1 in 4 games played, a 905 save percentage, and a 3.53 goals against average. He's given up 3 or 4 goals in all 4 of those starts in Edmonton. So I've certainly got interest in getting to the Oilers here tonight. It should be no real surprise. Connor McDavid on a 20-game point streak right now. He doesn't appear to be slowing down either. He has been just absolutely incredible. And his shot volume is tremendous as of late. Over his last 20 games played, 13.5 shots on goal per hour of ice time. He has been absolutely red hot. And this Edmonton 2 line, man, I really like the look of them. They're really kind of coming on here. Kasperi Kapanen, since returning from injury, 5 games played, he's got a goal and 4 assists and 11 shots on goal. Vasily Podkolzin finding some ways to chip in offensively here. It feels a little bit boom or bust for guys like Kapanen and Podkolzin there. But they've looked really, really good since they've been put together here. So I like the idea of getting some ownership on this second line here as well. In terms of the Islanders, it feels pretty rough for them tonight. I mean, the matchups are pretty brutal for them across the board here. You could maybe make an argument for a little bit of this top line of the New York Islanders here. They're going to be seeing pretty much all of their time going up against the Oilers top 6, but it's the same old story, right? If Edmonton 1 goes out there and does Edmonton 1 things, as their line stats have shown they've been doing as of late here, it makes it really hard for that Islanders team to really get going a whole lot offensively. So I don't really have much interest in playing the Islanders here tonight. And as usual for me, all in on the Edmonton Oilers.
I found a mistake in the charts that I will edit after. I don't know why the matchups are the exact same here. So that's an issue. I'll get that corrected here in the charts after. Obviously, something is amiss here with the matchups, but I don't think it'll change a ton on the Edmonton Oilers side of things. And I particularly don't have much interest in the Islanders anyway. In terms of like their 5v5 rolling chart here, everything is down. Most importantly, like obviously, I still think the Edmonton Oilers can get to the Islanders even if their defensive metrics are improving, but the offense is just cratering here for the Islanders. And obviously, I mentioned it earlier, man. I think that Connor Ingram is a really interesting play tonight. Hopefully, he sees enough volume. He is $8,400, but he is the NHL leader in quality start percentage. I think this is a big time win for the Oilers tonight. I don't mind getting to some Ingram. Grades out pretty well. Not going to see much ownership at all. Let's get to the final game of the night: the Vegas Golden Knights and the Toronto Maple Leafs. I bet the under in this one. Golden Knights very good defensively, and we talked about it yesterday with the Kings game. These metrics for the Golden Knights are very bizarre with these new lines, like awful offensively, really good defensively. If Lindbaum gets a start, I feel less confident in the under, and I feel a little bit better about the Maple Leafs, but I don't really think I'm going to get to this game a whole heck of a lot. Obviously, a lot of narrative here, right? This is Mitch Marner up against the Toronto Maple Leafs for the first time. He's just $6,100. You want to ride the narrative there. I think that he can have a big game. They did nothing last night outside of the power play, which is exactly what we thought was going to happen. So yet again, I think this isn't, a decent power play spot. The Maple Leafs penalty kill was very good. So honestly, to me, there is a decent chunk of ownership coming in here on this game that I'm not really touching. I think that they're all pretty expensive, right? Like the quality players in this lineup are very expensive. And it's just a way worse matchup than some of the expensive guys in other games. So it's not a game that I'm going to get a ton to, or get to a ton. I do just want to go back to Edmonton and the Islanders for a second, because I forgot to bring it up. The Islanders are seeing a pretty healthy amount of ownership. And it's ownership that I do feel comfortable fading. And that's kind of the reason that I like Ingram tonight, because like it's not a lot, but I mean, Barzell's at 10%. Now, I get it. Like him as a one-off, I think makes sense, right? Like he's playing a ton. He's just $5,300. Like, I think he's okay. So I don't mind getting or fading the Islanders, but maybe getting a little bit of Barzal in the mix. So yeah, I'm intrigued here to see what you think about this game here with the Leafs and the Golden Knights, because it's not a game that I'm like overwhelmingly excited about. I think it's gonna be a fun hockey game, just maybe not from a DFS standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, I think both teams are on a little bit of a shooting heater as of late, right? I mean, at 5-on-5, the Leafs are shooting 12.2% over their last 10 games played. The Golden Knights up at 13%. That's well above, the league average of around 10% over the last 10 games played for every team in the league. I don't really have a whole lot of interest in getting to Vegas here. I also don't want to be left holding the bag if they do find a way to pop off a bit offensively. So I can see myself getting like 5% Eichel Stone, 5% Marner Dorofeev, and probably leaving it at that. In terms of the Toronto ownership, pretty easy to get over the field here. Like I like the idea of a Matthews McCann mini stack. I like the Nylander Tavares mini stack. Again, I'm probably not getting there with a ton of ownership or anything like that. But I think that these are some okay spots here in this game. But I do kind of feel like this is a bit of a lower scoring, grinded out style of game. I actually bet the under on this game earlier today, so I kind of like the look of that here in this spot. So yeah, not a ton of interest in this one for me for sure.
We're both on the under, which is good. So Tom brings up a good point. Eichel could be out tonight. They called up Lisinski. Eichel apparently fell hard to the boards, and yes, I'll see if I can bring it up. I don't know how these work, how highlights work on the stream, but let's see if it works. This was yesterday. Eichel went crashing hard into the board, as you see on the game-winning goal. Apparently, a little bit nicked up. So, obviously, if Eichel's out, that changes things for sure. And something to keep in mind when you're building this evening. Okay, let's get to the defenseman and the goalies. Thomas Harley was certainly one of my favorites. I don't mind getting here whatsoever. Artem Lemchunov grades out extremely well. We talked about Severson, Provorov, that pairing with Columbus too. I think Severson grades out very nicely tonight. Louis Crevier, always a solid option. I like Matt Roy and Rasmus Sandin, but just a little bit less. Jacob Chikrin back in the lineup tonight. So those guys at the top are probably among my favorites. Like Matthias Samuelsson, always kind of in play. We talked about Tom Willander a little bit earlier. Don't mind getting to some of him. I don't mind getting to Jake Wallman at all again tonight. $3,500. Kind of eased into the lineup the other night, but I think it makes sense to get back to just a guy that does a lot of shit out there. Anybody else sticking out to you that you really as a value option on the blue line tonight?
I think you covered off most of the names here. I think if you're looking for some really solid floor plays, Noah Dodson, Darnell Nurse have both been tremendous as of late with their floor. Adam Pelech, I think he's very live for the shot bonus tonight.
Yeah.
5.7 blocks per hour over his last 20 games played. But he's been giving a really solid floor here as of late too. So I like him. Provorov, Kulak, Cam York continuing to be a solid play at $3,800 as well. So just a couple more names to kind of throw into the mix there too.
I thought of somebody else, but I can't remember who it is. So we'll just move on to the goalies and hope it comes back to me. Merzlikins against Greatso is the best goalie to target tonight. Obviously, a little sketchy there, but I honestly don't hate to play at 8K. I feel better about Jeremy Swayman, obviously, but I think that the shot volume that he's going to face is likely going to be somewhat limited. I don't feel great about Thompson. I like the Sharks a little bit tonight. I think it's a pretty penny to pay. Obviously, it's still the San Jose Sharks, though. And if you want to get up there, that's fine. Spencer Knight, second highest owned goalie on the slate. I think he makes some sense tonight. Should see a decent amount of volume in a game that's definitely winnable there. This game here with the Winnipeg Jets and the Minnesota Wild, I like both goalies. Wallstead obviously super expensive and Hellebuck super cheap. So Hellebuck easily one of my favorite pay down options of the night. No question about it there. Ottingers as the highest owned goalie on the night, I think is another reason why I'm so interested in Utah. They feel like they could be a real chalk buster there against some of this Ottinger. You can call it chalk. It's only 11%, but he's still the highest owned goalie on the slate. Who's really sticking out to you between the pipes tonight? Who are you targeting the most?
Really like the Ingram shout from you. I think he's a really solid play here on this slate tonight. Spencer Knight at $7,900. I think he's a guy I can get behind here for sure. To me, it feels like there's a lot more goaltending options on this slate than we've had in the last couple of nights.
For sure.
At 7,800, I think you can make an argument there. I don't mind getting to some Hellebuck at $7,200. I think I'll be over the field on him for sure. Joey Decord at 7,400. I mean, he's had some great games against the Bruins. 3 games played, 2 wins, 238 goals against average, 934 save percentage. So I don't mind him as a bit of a dumpster dive option on this slate.
Yeah, a couple $7,500 goalies too. Devin Cooley, second in the NHL in quality start percentage behind Connor Ingram is Devin Cooley. Obviously not a bad matchup. Not a $7,500 matchup against the Blackhawks, I don't think. Still expect this to face a decent amount of shot volume with how bad the Flames have been defensively. And then Joseph Woll, I mean, if Jack Eichel doesn't play, Joseph Woll, he's been playing really well at $7,500 to make some sense there as well. My dumb ass currently has Ersson. I'll be there alone. Yeah, I would imagine not a lot of ownership on Ersson there. Okay, let's get quickly to our hat trick pick challenge, and then we'll get on our way. Let you guys build some lineups. We'll build ours as well. Hopefully, someone here will win a ton of money tonight. Zach, you're going to the Oilers game tonight. So, which Edmonton Oiler is your hat trick pick?
Manifesting a Zach Hyman hat trick.
Very cool. Okay, give me. I really don't know. Let's go Macklin Celebrini. Why not? Grades out third in the charts. I don't know. I don't really have a strong lean tonight, which is interesting. I was going to say Dylan Gunther, but that seems weird because he just had 2. Maybe he'll have 3. I'm going Dylan Gunther. I'm changing it up. Give me Dylan Gunther. Going to light Jake Ottinger up. If you want to participate in today's hat trick pick challenge, all you got to do is drop your hat trick pick in the comment section of the video on YouTube, not the live chat. If your player scores a hat trick, we'll get you a $25 gift card to Nation Gear. You can pick up some daily face-off swag. And thank you to our friends at Roto Grinders for providing projected ownership for today's show, even if some people don't believe in Connor McDavid's 8% ownership. If you want to get $20 off your first month of Roto Grinders Premium, all you got to do is click the link in the description of the video on YouTube. We also have a link to 20% off of Action Network Premium. If you want to up your betting game with Action Network Premium, you can do you can do that there. We also have the link to the DFO DFS Discord, which is where these charts are posted. We do a lot of other stuff in there as well. Try to help you build some lineups and make some decisions, and a lot of other fun, smart people in there as well. So yeah, do all those things, and we'll see you back here tomorrow. I believe it is a 5-game slate on Friday. I don't like to lie, so let's double check. Hey, look at me go. We'll see you back here then.